I remember the narrow stairwell, the dark wood, and the red patterned fabrics. I remember the smell of cheap perfume, the mildew, and I remember being led up to a small room where I got to peer into the hallowed space where on April 14th, 1865, John Wilkes Booth shot our 16th president at Ford's Theater in Washington, D.C. Today I would like to tell you about the events surrounding the assassination of Abraham Lincoln. Lincoln's platform in 1860 was that slavery shouldn't be allowed to continue to grow into any more new territories, and that eventually it would die if all future states were let into the Union. His main plan was to compensate slave owners to help do their part by ending slavery. With the election of Lincoln to the presidency, 7 states decided to prove their resolve by seceding from the Union. The Confederate States of America weren't formally recognized as a country by Lincoln. In fact, his one plan during his presidency was to maintain and preserve the Union. As time went on, it became clear that to do so, the slavery question must be answered. So, in January of 1863, Lincoln issued his Emancipation Proclamation, which declared free all slaves living in states not under Union control, and it allowed black soldiers to fight for the Union. That same proclamation eventually led to the 13th Amendment, which freed all slaves in and out of the Union. Lincoln's continued support only served to anger his opponents and furthered the plans of John Wilkes Booth. Booth, who was an actor, also acted in the same theater where he later shot Lincoln, was totally against the abolition of slavery. So in 1864, he devised a plan to kidnap Lincoln and told him for ransom to exchange him for Confederate prisoners of war. Well, after that plan foiled, he decided to attend a speech Lincoln was given supporting voting rights for blacks. Well, which infuriated Booth. He turned to a friend, according to Wikipedia.com, and said, "That is the last speech he will ever give." So his plans immediately turned to assassination. So on the night of April 14th, 1865, Booth made his way up the stairwell at Ford's Theater where Lincoln was in the presidential box, pushed open the door and shot Lincoln in the back of the head. Fought with Major Rathbone, who was also an occupant in the box, jumped to the stage and yelled, "Sic semper tyrannis," which in Latin means, "Thus always to tyrants." Ran off the stage and out the back door, according to eyewitnesses that night. Lincoln was carried across the street to the Peterson House, where he died the next day, April 15th, 1865. With the assassination of Lincoln, the manhunt began with the pride of the Union and state. And 12 days later, Booth was captured and cornered in a barn near a river in the Rappahannock in Virginia. Lincoln was the first American president to be assassinated, and his funeral procession started where his body lay in state in Washington, D.C. and ended in Springfield, Illinois, some 1,700 miles according to Wikipedia.com. Andrew Johnson was now a successor and the 17th President of the United States. Of the many suspected accomplices, 8 were tried and convicted in a military tribunal. 4 were sentenced to death by hanging, 3 were sentenced to life in prison, and 1 was sentenced to only 6 years in prison. 3 of those were pardoned by Johnson later. Johnson, who was an unpopular president, was impeached in 1868 and missed being convicted by only 1 vote. And under his leadership, the Reconstruction of the South was a blow to equal rights as well as the pride of the South. And in fact, Jefferson Davis said, next to the destruction of the Confederacy, the death of Abraham Lincoln was the darkest day the South has ever known. Thank you.